And speaking of big, you were with the blue whales, which are the largest of the whales. What was that like?
Boy, that's a whole other, yeah, it's a whole other experience. It's a whole other energy too. I have not been in the water with blue whales in the same way as with the humpbacks because it's not really possible to do that. I mean, you can be in the same, you can be swimming in the same water that they're in, but they generally are not going to be engaging in that same way. But the place that I've spent most time with blue whales has been in the Sea of Cortez, and some of the they come there in the winter months, and for all the reasons, to feed and to be together and mate and have their young and all of that. And so the population in the Sea of Cortez of blue whales is often quite high in the winter months. And so I've been there on kayak and camping trips, and we kayak. I go with a wonderful company out of Loreto called Sea Kayak Baja Mexico that takes people out into it's a UNESCO marine mammal and protected World Heritage Site. And so we kayak out and then camp on the islands, which are part of the sanctuary. And then you can also take small boats out to be near where the blue whales are. And because blue whales are so big, they are not as visible at the surface as humpbacks. They don't do the kinds of behaviors that humpbacks do, such as breaching and all of that, because their bodies don't allow them to do that. They're just gigantic. But so what you see from the surface of the water, you'll see them come up to breathe. And then if you're lucky, you'll also see the tail as it goes back down, right? But we've been in, certain times and certain years, just again surrounded by them. And 10, 12, 15 blue whales at the same time. And, it's interesting because scientists used to think that they were quite solitary creatures because they often would see them alone. And what they didn't realize until really they started learning and understanding more about them is that because of their size and because of the great speed at which they can travel, right? And that also the speed at which their vocalizations and their communication with each other, the way that that can travel, they're actually in connection with each other across vast distances, right? Of connection and communication and being in relationship with each other. So they are not at all solitary. But when they come in the Sea of Cortez, they are often in closer proximity to each other, especially in the years where there's a lot of them gathering. So that again, just being in that energy, being in there and in their energy field and connecting with them in that way is just magical. I remember one time we were camping on an island, and a mother blue whale and her calf. I heard them in the middle of the night. When you hear their blows, there's nothing like it because I mean, when you see the blow, it's like 30 feet into the air. They're huge, right? And when you hear it, it's so loud because it's just so big, right? And so I remember, in the middle of the night being awakened by the sound of the blows, and I knew that they were there, and you could hear the big blow and then the slightly smaller one from the calf, right? And so there I am sleeping on the beach, and this particular mother whale and calf stayed right offshore in the area for hours and hours and hours. So sunrise came, and there they were, and they stayed and they stayed and they stayed. And it was just absolutely magical. We were on land. We just, waded into the water just a little bit just to kind of be in in the same water that they were in, right? But yeah, they have a very particular energy that to me feels, I don't know if this will make sense to you or not, but like that level of awareness and consciousness that the blue whales in particular hold is so vast. It's just, it's big like their bodies, right? Big like their awareness of the ocean, their lives as they travel through the depths, right? I mean, it's really, again, it's really hard to describe in words. It's
Yeah, I haven't been with blue whales, but I can only imagine what that's like. I communicated with the whales, but it was the group of whales together. It wasn't
Mhm.
individual species, but what they shared with me was they talked a lot about the void, that they're so immersed in the void, which I would equate to spirit, to
Mhm.
consciousness, the broader consciousness. So with those enormous bodies, it must be so spacious. I just can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah, and one of the things I have come to understand from whales of different species, there's been a commonality, and I'd be curious to know if this is something about what you were understanding in talking about the
Yeah.
void and that connection with
Yeah.
spirit, is that there's not a separation. Sometimes in our human world, in our human minds, there's separation between our physical lives, our physical bodies, and then spirit, right? And with the whales, it's like, no, it's both and. We are fully whale. We are fully in our whale lives, doing our whale things, whatever those are, at any point in time, raising our young, mating, feeding, migrating, doing all of the things that we're doing. And always with this complete fluid connection with spirit and with all of the multidimensional realms of spirit um you're the word that you use, the void, is that what you were understanding they were meaning
Yes.
by that? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. They
Yeah.
live in that space
They live
like
in
we
that.
all do, but they're
Yes.
so immersed in it and so conscious
Yeah.
of it that it's like we don't quite understand that. We can't be in both worlds as easily as they are, but it's just like you're describing. It's just who they are, you
Yeah.
know.
And it's always present. It's not ever on and off. It's always present, and it's not either or. It's both and. We're fully present in our physical lives, and we're fully present in our connection to all of all of everything that is.
What comes to my mind is the expression that we're spirits inhabiting human bodies. But and that's who they are. They're spirits inhabiting a whale body, but like you said, there's not the separation that we
Right.
feel.
Yeah.
It's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I've understood from them is that their species consciousness is also not limited, um, in that they have access to the memories and the experiences of their species and of their ancestors and of all of those who have come before in the physical, in their physical world, right? And as such, they also have access, and I've heard this from whales of different species, but that there is access then to that knowledge of of not just what their the knowledge of their species, but the knowledge of the earth that comes through that, the knowledge of the oceans, the knowledge of the planet, really, because they've been here for a lot longer than we have, right? And that knowledge of that vast, almost like the history, the records of the earth,
Yeah.
the records of their species. They have access to that, and it's encoded in their language, in their species language, but it's also encoded in their consciousness, and it's something that they carry and they can and often do communicate about. I don't know if that it touches in with some of your experiences with them,
And I
or
also feel like maybe it's not just about the earth, that they have
yes,
kind of a cosmic or universal consciousness.
yes,
They're so in touch with that.
yeah,
It's not limited to anything
right, right, exactly, and galactic,
galactic.
and yeah, so vast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, so great, Nancy. This is so exciting. Thank you. And
It's so
I
fun to
want
talk
to
about this.
hear,
It's just so fun. I mean, you know, like I said to you and Avantika when we talked last time, you push the whale button on me, it's hard. There's not really an off switch. So
and I want to hear it all.